Now 250,000. Now, but to get 275. High, but to get 275. 3. Now 300,000. Now 3 1/4. 325. High, but to get 3 1/4. But to get 325. Now half. Now, but to get 300.
Good afternoon from Dallas, Texas. It is April the 27th, 2020, and we are still in the middle of the pandemic, the COVID-19. Welcome to the Mike McGavel Jones Show. We're broadcasting from Casa Jones in far north Dallas. Actually, we're physically in Addison, but if I walk across the street, we're in Dallas, Texas, so we'll claim Dallas. And I'm really excited today. I've got some things I want to talk about. Before I forget, I want to send our condolences to Harold Reed's family. Harold Reed, we have some friends also that live over in their part of the country in Virginia. And Harold Reed, of course, was the bass singer for the group, the Statler Brothers. Statler Brothers, of course, iconic group from the 60s and 70s and 80s. They actually retired in 2002. From touring and traveling and doing shows. They got their big break with Johnny Cash back in 1964, and then they left him around 71, 72 to pursue their own career, which was phenomenal. So he passed away this last week around Friday, and from a long bout with liver disease. And so we send our condolences to his family. And behind me, in recognition of Harold Reed, if you'll take a look, we have a letter from this is kind of weird, this is like doing the weather. A letter from the Country Music Hall of Fame that talks about the people that are on the gold record behind me. And this is from an event that took place at the Country Music Hall of Fame in Nashville, Tennessee. And a lot of the stars came together and signed it. On the very top, the first four names are the original Statler Brothers. And so you have the Statler Brothers. And then as you go around the record to the right, you have a lot of very famous people. You've got Porter Wagoner immediately to the right. At around 3 o'clock, you have Webb Pierce, and you have, you've got Johnny Rodriguez, and you've got Razzie Bailey, and all the way around you have Grandpa Jones and Minnie Pearl. In the center of the record, you have Roy Acuff, who's, of course, the modern father of country music, and, of course, he's been deceased for probably 30 years. And then Farron Young. A lot of big songs were done by Farron, and then up to around the 11 o'clock area, you've got Sonny James and some other stars. So anyway, it's a real neat piece. It's an original piece from the Country Music Hall of Fame that I was able to acquire some time ago. And it's one of my favorite pieces along with some of the other memorabilia, but I thought I'd share that with you. My guest today is not an individual that is hard to introduce because he's been on television now for over 10 years. He is probably the face of the auction business today. He is seen internationally 24 hours a day. He and his wife, Laura, are the auctioneers on the show Storage Wars. And there he is right there, Mr. Dan Dotson. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Mike. Thanks for having me on your show. You do so much for the industry, and I enjoy watching you. And now here I am on the show. Thanks.
Well, I'm thrilled to have you on. And it is fun, when we do we've been doing our Texans canned cards for kids. I always get a kick when you pop on. And you'll send me a note or say hi. And that's always a real treat because I know you're a busy guy. You've got a lot of stuff going on. And the fact that you take the time to hop on is very nice. And I appreciate the kind words. This is the kickoff. Today is the kickoff for National Auctioneers Week with the National Auctioneers Association. So it's kind of neat to have an auctioneer celebrity on. And you are, of course, exactly that. So what I wanted, and I understand that you are, now tell me where you are again today.
I am in Yucaipa, California. That's like between LA and Palm Springs in Southern California. Sunshiny.
Yeah, I can see that. Very nice. And, you and I, we've known each other for some time now. It's not like we just met yesterday. And we had a great opportunity to meet. And I can't remember what National Auctioneers Convention we first, actually, you and I met at a Starbucks in Riverside quite a few years ago. I just
remember that.
I don't Yeah, I just gave you a call and I said, hey, let's get together. And we met for coffee. And then the next thing I know, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, I think Laura drove up in a new Maserati. Is that right? Was it a Maserati or?
She had a couple of them. She had a brand. I bought her a used one, and then she kept that for a year or two, and then she gave that one to me, and she bought a brand new one, and it was a zippy car, and we had that for quite a while, but she doesn't have it now. She's got her Mercedes and her Escalade, and that's Mrs. Laura. She likes to always have something great to drive.
Well, you got to pay the lady, right?
Yeah, you do, and if you don't pay her now, you got to pay her later. So I just get it out of the way. I try not to argue too much. When she really wants something, I first, I say no, we can't afford that. That's my normal thing, and then she comes right back and explains why we can afford it, and so
she's probably more convincing than you are.
She is. I mean, Laura and I, we've been together for 25 years, and she just never ceases to amaze me. She's always doing like this COVID-19, quarantine. She's learned how to do a Morse code. I mean, who learns Morse code? Well, Laura Dotson learns Morse code, and she can spell stuff out. And I mean, I don't know. We're probably going to need it one of these days. So I don't argue with anything. She speaks a bunch of languages.
Morse code, huh?
Yeah, Morse code. I swear, she learned Morse code. Every letter, she knows everything about it. She could get you out of if you're trapped with Laura and you want out, she can tap her way out of it. And that just sounds wrong. That just sounds wrong.
Well, okay. Every once in a while, we're getting a little video glitch, and I don't know what that's about. I don't know what it is. And maybe Travis can tell us because Travis is monitoring everything. I wanted to find out what's happened with you and your business in regard because of the COVID-19. Do you have your mask?
I do. I do. I originally got this match, which was cool. It matched my hat. And, I think that it's good, but it wasn't like an N95. So then what I did is I got the N95 mask. We ordered them on eBay. We paid for them. They canceled the order. That's been happening for like a month and a half or 2 months. I mean, for a long time, they would sell them to you. Then they would pull them back. And I don't know where they would go, but we ended up getting these. So I put this on, I put this over the top, I put my hat down low, and I put my shades on, and that's what we've been doing with the auctions that we had. We don't have any live auctions going right now because California seems to be shut down until indefinitely. So we've put everything off until May. Then that didn't work any longer. So we put everything off until June, and we've canceled 200 auctions. And so, we're excited to get back to work and to figure this out. And, we did a few auctions and just kept the pods of people down to less than 10. And, it takes, sometimes you have to sell stuff 2 or 3, 4 times in order to find the winner. And so that's been challenging. We've done, live auctions that way. We've done some silent auctions that way where we'll take small pods of people, and we'll let them inspect everything. And then we go back into central areas, and we'll just, have them write down their maximum bid, what they would pay for a certain unit, and then we would do it. We're ready to go back to work because this is way challenging, and most of the crowds and most of the buyers, they're ready to go back to work. They're looking for stuff to buy, and they're not really getting to swap meet right now because a lot of the swap meets are closed down, but they're opening back up from what I understand. And a lot of them have increased their skills for putting stuff on eBay and on Craigslist. And, that's kind of where things are going. Live auctions are always going to be out there. We're always going to have them. But this online thing is a great way for older buyers that don't want to expose themselves, especially for the next few months. You can go online. We have an online self-storage auction platform. Can I plug it? Called storageauctions.net, and that is a nationwide self-storage auction platform that sellers, all over the nation. There's over 50,000 facilities available out there, and any of them can use our site. And it's no listing fees, no cancellation fees. I just keep plugging myself. It's a habit, Mike. I can't I can't help it.
Let's talk about growing up in Southern California. Tell me about it, please. Tell me about your family. Tell me about if you have brothers and sisters. When were you born? All that good stuff.
All right, right on. I was born in 1962, and my birthday is November 23rd. And I was born in Riverside at the community hospital, and we lived over on Strong Street till I was about 5 years old. My dad at the time was in the Marine Corps, and he and my mom, they split up when I was about 5, and my mom ended up, she was like the matriarch of the family, and she was also an auctioneer. When I was about 8 years old, I would go back to Arkansas every summer with my grandfather, Sam Fancher, and he was an auctioneer, and he would teach me how to auctioneer. And in 1974, I said, Grandpa, I want to be like you. I want to do this auctioneering stuff. And so he started teaching me in 74, and 3 or 4 weeks later, man, I thought I was ready, and I still do. And, and I'm still learning, and he put me up there, and I lost my nerve in my voice when he introduced me. My mouth opened up and nothing came out because, these people just scared the hell out of me trying to talk in front of people, especially as a kid. So my grandfather introduced me the second time and said, go for it. And I just I couldn't do it. And then he got a little pissed off at me and said, well, get down. You either get down or do this. And I knew right then and there, if I didn't flip the switch and make this happen and face my fear, that I would never do it. So I did it. And I've never looked back since. And I've loved it. And I love seeing my name in print. I love hearing my name on the radio. And with my grandpa Sam, that's the way that he would advertise his sales in Northwest Arkansas. So and there was a man named Detman Mitchell that taught my grandfather how to auctioneer in the 40s. And he got to hear me auctioneer. And he told my grandpa, he goes, that kid's got more natural potential than any auctioneer I've ever taught. Not that he taught me, but that's what he told my grandpa. So I always kind of held on to that. And later on in life, I say, Grandpa, I mean, that wasn't true, right? He was just trying to make me feel good, right? And he said, no, he meant it. And so anyway, that's kind of how I learned to start auctioneering. We, at age 9, I lived in Riverside, California, off of a thing called American Drive, American Auctioneers, American Drive, Buy American, Hire American. It was, we were like the second family that moved into this housing project, and then it went Section 8 and every low income. So the whole neighborhood filled full of everybody but white redheaded kids. And so we learned to adapt in a very mixed area at a young age. And we were fighting all the time, and we had friends. And I lived there till I was about 16 or 17 years old. When I was 16 years old back in Southern California, I would get on my little KC 400 motorcycle, and I would ride down to the Chino auction, where there was auctioneers like guys named Merle Bernard and different guys, Bob Bentley, and they were running that auction show down there. And as a kid, they would let me sell furniture and stuff. So when I graduated high school at the age of 17, I would go back there, and if I whipped pigs for 2 or 3, 4 hours, then I could sell goats for an hour. So that was what I did. I did that. And then one day, Bob Bentley, the auctioneer that was in charge of the Chino auction down there, he came to me and he says, Danny, he goes, quit joking about everything. Just stick to the numbers. Don't say anything in between. Get those goats sold, and that's it. And I remembered at the time that, my grandfather had told me great advice. He says, Danny, if you will have a good time while you're auctioneering, you'll be one of the best auctioneers out there. That's part of it, right? And so that went through my head, and I realized right then and there, I'm not going to be a goat auctioneer. I don't have what it takes. So I'm going to go ahead and go do something else that feels good and easy. And that's kind of what I naturally kind of flow with what works well for me, Mike. And so it didn't work well there at Chino. So I moved on, and I worked with Nationwide Auctions and Dan Porter Auction a few times, and worked with some of those old auctioneers and stuff that, were pretty influential for me. My grandma was in a meeting one time, and she met this guy named Warren Salmon, and Warren Salmon had a little chicken auction down in Pedley called Solomon's Auction, and that was one of my first auction jobs. And besides working with my grandpa, so I would go down there and I would sell. And then Mike's auction, he had chickens and stuff. I used to sell chickens. I was the best chicken auctioneer anywhere for a long time. You know, I could sell them quick. I could sell like, I think one time I sold 268 cages of chickens in an hour. I mean, that's quick. That's fast.
You were the chicken man.
I was the chicken man. Right.
So after you progressed past chickens, what did you get into?
Well, we started doing some heavy equipment and cars and stuff with Nationwide Auctions, and you know, I just started kind of selling tools and stuff. So one day I went down to Orange County to Billy Humphrey's auction, South Coast Auction, huge auction, 4 acres, 3 auction arenas, and I went down there and I said, you know, I wanted to get a job from him, and he didn't have anything for me. And so I had my feelings hurt. I went back to my mom and I said, you know, I was just going to get my job. And so anyway, long story short, she says, well, why don't we just have an auction house right here? And I said, you mean, we had a little construction company and we had area in the back. So we put in an auction there, and it lasted for 10 years. And we sold pottery and collectible glass and porcelain and all kinds of stuff like that. You know, prior to that, I had this fruit processing plant in Corona, and I had been working with this auctioneer named Ray Blue with Blue Bush Auctioneers in LA, and he was just restaurant equipment. So I went and looked at this big fruit processing plant. Wasn't quite sure what I was looking at, but the fellow that owned it, he liked me, and I explained to him that I was like a general practitioner and that he needed a specialist, somebody that really knew these stainless steel screw conveyors and this stuff, and that I knew the perfect guy, and that would be Ray Blue. And could I bring him in on this deal and have him look at it? So I got a hold of Ray and I said, I have a deal, and if you give me 25% of it, I'll give it to you. And the deal is I get to work it. You're going to pay me to work it. And if you like the way that I work, you're going to hire me. And I had already been working little small deals with Ray for a couple of years. That's kind of the thing for new auctioneers out there. You know, if you have your hand out for something and you're not bringing something to the table, you're blowing it. You need to figure out how to make people money and then bring that to the table and then make yourself, you know, valuable. Yeah. And that's kind of how we did it. So we did this auction and it was great. And Ray hired me, and I went down to LA to the Restaurant Row off of Washington Boulevard in Arlington. And I worked down there for about 4 months, and Ray wouldn't let me out of the building. I mean, I learned everything about restaurant equipment, and you know, I asked a lot of questions, and one day I just decided this is not for me. I don't want to spend all my time inside this warehouse selling restaurant equipment. I want to get out of here and do something. So I spent all my money on a VCR that would dub sound. It cost me $900 at the time, and one of those huge ass VHS cameras. You remember those big ass cameras they used to have? So I bought one of those for $1,500. I bought the VCR for $900, and I made myself a commercial because I wanted to be an auto auctioneer. I wanted to be like you, Mike. I mean, you do that, and I wanted to do that for a long time. So I videotaped myself, and that was what was funny. When I went down to South Coast Auction, I took one of those tapes. I gave it to the owner down there, and he just fluffed me off. And I said, "Well, I got a video of me working." He didn't want to see it. So you know, that's kind of funny how things work in life. You know, if you put your head against the wall and you throw enough stuff, something's going to stick. And if you're trying to go a certain direction and it doesn't work out for you, then that means you're supposed to be doing something else, most likely. That's the way I look at stuff. If something's too hard to do, then it's probably the wrong thing. Things should kind of fit together for you. I'm not saying that life shouldn't be challenging, and we don't have to work hard to get what we want. But I mean, you've got to see it through. You got to see it working. And if you're trying every way and it's just not working, then go find something else. Go figure it out somewhere else. That's my advice.
Well, you and I have been around this business about the same amount of time. So, my grandfather took me to auctions. It's kind of funny. We had moved to Southern California around 68. And so we were living over in Brea. And I would go home in the summers. So I'd be home the summer of 68, 69, 70, 71. And he took me to auctions. So that was my introduction. My grandfather introduced me to auctions. And then my parents started going to antique auctions. And they're the reason I got into doing antique auctions in Houston back in 75 or 76. So, it's funny how, the world is offered to you, but you have to recognize the opportunity and you have to be willing to work. And you've had success. You've also had failure. You and I we've both been down that road. So, you might expound on that a little bit about how the market's turned. You wake up one day, the clients aren't there, the business isn't there. You're kind of trying to figure out your move.
You got to put your tool belt back on, Mike. That's what a lot of people forget. I've built up a great business. I have, I don't know, 6 or 8 auctioneers that I work with. And, I have 6 or 8 employees that, rely on me. And I'm not doing very good for them right now, but I've tried to keep them on part-time and let them get unemployment. I'm trying to adapt because that's what survivors do. They adapt to their situation, and auctioneers are great survivors. And so when I say put your tool belt back on, that like if you're a guy that builds houses and you've built up a big old huge company and all of a sudden you don't have that going for you, then put your tool belt back on, go back to square one and do what you know how to do. That's what I'm going to have to do. And, if I'm fine. I mean, the auction business is going to be fine. And, anybody that's in the auction business knows that when the economy is good, auction business is good. When the economy is bad, the auction business is great. And it's sad to say there's a lot of things happening right now that are pushing auctions, but I mean, they're piling up. Auctions, at least in my world, are piling up like cordwood. And, I'm probably going to need to hire a couple more auctioneers to just help me get local stuff done. And so I'm always open. I just plugged on your show for a new auctioneer, Mike. So,
you're going to be bombarded. They're going to be bombarded.
Hey, I'm okay with that. And to be honest with you, if I can plug again, our storageauctions.net platform has a way for auctioneers to register as an auctioneer. And auctioneers can actually make money from us just by bringing new facilities on board. Even if they just claim their site, that's worth something. If they actually put an auction on, that's worth more. And if auctioneers want to do this work for a self-storage facility, there's ways within our system, storageauctions.net, to invoice that client and everything. So it's pretty slick. We've spent a lot of real money on this, and it was set up to shine during times like this for sure, because as an auctioneer on our site, you can do online pre-bids where, if you have a self-storage facility, you have one unit, you're worried about a lot of crowds being there, put it on a pre-bid where people can bid online. They don't have to show up to the auction. They can put a max bid on there. The auctioneer can treat that as a proxy bid and can sell it to them, bill them, invoice the client. The buyer goes right into the facility and pays them directly, and that's the way it works. It's pretty easy. Yeah.
You and I came along at a time when it was the barrier to getting in the auction business was not really there. If you had talent and you were good with people and you could stand up in front of people and sell something, you could pretty much get in the auction business. When we got started and you got started, everything was paper, paper clerking, big crowds, registration, newspaper advertising. You didn't have to be a rocket scientist to be an auctioneer. You just had to be talented and be willing to work. You didn't even have to be a great auctioneer. You could be a fair to bad auctioneer, but be good with people. And if they liked you, then the world was your oyster. Tell me what you see is the biggest difference to you in your mind that's been the biggest change in the last 30 years or even the last 20 years compared to where you and I would be when we were sitting down having a conversation or visiting. What's number one? What do you see as the number one or two thing that have just rocked the world and changed it?
Well, I mean, the online stuff certainly has. eBay certainly did. I mean, when eBay first came on the scene, I thought, oh my God, this is going to put us out of business. Well, it didn't. It didn't put us out of business. It created lots of little dealers around us, and that can all make money from what we're doing. So, I mean, just not and not having to write everything out. I mean, like you remember, Mike, I mean, we used to have to write out, hundreds of flyers. We have to do that all by hand. And then when we got slick, we would put it on pressure sensitive labels and make photocopies of those until those were just so light they wouldn't work anymore. And that's how we did things for a decade or more. And so I think that, like, when the computers came out and we could start emailing stuff, that changed the whole world for the auction industry. I mean, that changed it, and I think for the better, especially now. With all the restrictions of having crowd size and stuff. Hopefully that's going to get back. Hopefully that's going to get back to normal at some point. But in the interim, I think that this online capability is very smart for people. I think that people that are used to just doing yard sales and swap meets and stuff, you should hone your skills with eBay and Craigslist, and you should really learn how to use some of these social channels and ways to sell things online and get people involved in what you're doing through the internet, because it just seems like, I mean, 10 years ago, I would have hated saying that. I would have said, no, wait, forget the internet. Let's go live, because that's where all the deals are. And, it's true. Live auctions, especially the type of auctions, a lot of them that we do, we'll go in and do estates with cars and tools, and that stuff will just be, maybe a tight areas where you just can't really move stuff around much, or financially it puts a hardship on you to lot and tag, these 2,000 items that are laying out there that I could probably bulk them up and put the stuff in 100 lots, and I can, work with the buyers and figure out what they're wanting to buy at that time, and walk through it with a good ground crew to keep stuff straight, and a good clerk to keep it straight. And that's, those are the type of auctions that we do that we're the best at. We have a lot of that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I just think the convenience in the auction world has come a long way. And I think that, these new auctioneers that are coming up that are savvy to create SEO for your companies and your brand are smart. Those are the a lot of my auctioneers, they're getting older too. So I do look for younger guys that are, that have some good tech savvy with them. And, I'm looking for, guys or gals that understand equipment, commercial and industrial equipment and that kind of stuff. I'd like to do some more appraisals and that. I think the appraisal business is going to be huge coming up in the near future. I think that, we do a lot of appraisals for REO banks and mortgage companies and brokers and stuff whenever they have to do, eviction auctions. I know a lot of that's going to be put on hold. But there's going to be a lot of that at some point that's going to open up, and it's going to be a huge business for a lot of auctioneers and us. We've been doing those eviction, abandoned personal property auctions for 35 or 40 years, a long time. And sure. I've seen all these, all these waves of evictions and stuff that have happened in the United States over the last 30 years, and that just unfortunately that's the way that it works. And that's what's coming at us right now. I don't think I answered your question, Mike.
I think you did. I think the answer was technology. That's been the biggest change we've had. And you alluded to the discussion about eBay. I think it's amazing that eBay, think about this. eBay came out in 1995. They've been here for 25 years. So the game changed 25 years ago. And a quarter of a century is a reasonable amount of time. The only difference is you and I are getting older. And it's like, well, that just seems like the other day. But the reality is, when you and I got in the business, we were selling assets that today you can't give away.
Right.
I think that's a huge difference in our business right now, is that the things that people would drive all the way across the United States to try to buy a piece of depression glass, or a Hull or a McCoy piece of pottery, or some rare thing,
or typewriter,
or
those typewriters with the balls, they were the slickest thing in the world. That little ball would spin around, and it was amazing.
Tube, the IBM Selectric tube. I wish I'd have kept mine. Of course, it may be in the warehouse.
I'm sure that if you get to looking for that, you're going to find it one day and say, look, there it is. I'm so glad I had it.
Yeah, and it'll bring it won't. They'll have to put it in a pallet to get rid of it.
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk about because we do have limited time. I know. Now, for example, you woke up this morning. What did you do this morning? This Monday morning on the 27th of April, 2020. What did you do this morning?
The first thing I did was I put my hands out like this because I'm not awake yet, and I found my coffee. So the first thing I did is I got up, I went to the bathroom, I got my coffee, and then I looked at my little dogs and I started negotiating with them why it is that I can't take them out right now, but I'll take them out in just a minute when I wake up. Yeah. And then, the Louis, the little French bulldog, looks at me with those big alien eyes, and I think he cussed me out. That's what I think. But then I kept my word to my little dogs. We took a couple of trips around the house. They did their business. And I've got two of these little French bulldogs, and I've got a big shepherd, and I've got a 100-pound Mastiff dog. And then we've got this little Pomeranian that makes a lot of noise. He's not my favorite dog. I'm just saying. We've had him for 12 years, and I love him, but, he just barks a lot, so I just can't stand that. So one of our little Frenchies is sick, and I don't know what happened to him, but those two French bulldogs, they are bulldogs, and they got into a fight. And one of them whipped the other one, and the one that got whipped got his feelings hurt. And I think it put him in depression. I swear to God, dogs can have depression. So, he got to where he couldn't even kind of get up. So we finally, after 4 days of this, I thought we were going to lose him. We took him to the vet, and they gave him some antibiotics, and we've taken some samples, and we're waiting for the little testing. But he's doing better now, but not great. He's still he's a little on the skinny side, and he's not walking real good. I was wondering, Mike, if you might know a good dog chiropractic service in Southern California.
Let me tell you something. Isn't it amazing how much money you can actually invest in an animal?
It's amazing. I have a dog, the shepherd, and she's probably worth about $1. And I've put about $6,000 in her because she got into a fight with a skunk, and that got infected, and it put some kind of weird bacteria in her fat, and I can't get her over it. I spent $5,000 on her, and now she's just, she's sore, and we own a CBD shop, so I've been giving her CBD pet medicine, and that seems to help her. And I don't know.
I just on Facebook yesterday, I think it was yesterday or last night, somebody that's a friend of mine on Facebook was looking for great CBD medicine for pets.
CBDcafeonline.com. Did I plug it?
I gave you a chance.
Say CBDcafeonline.com. You can buy all that kind of stuff online, and anything over $50 order, it's no shipping, it's free. And we're doing free local, no contact deliveries here in Yucaipa and surrounding areas.
Yeah. You could always send an autographed picture with it too,
and I'm way open to do that. Our son, Laura and I, we have a son together. His name is Garrett, and this is his thing. He's already started paying back, some of the huge amounts of money that we've invested in him. And so, we're proud of him, and he's working and, taking care of this stuff. And these new millennials, they're smart. They're smart, Mike. They know how to, he's got these drift cars, and he's got 25 or 30,000 followers on Instagram that love his car. His car has its own account. It's weird. Right. It's weird the way things go now.
That is weird.
Even the dogs have their own account.
I have no doubt.
It gets weirder.
You're a promoter. So we've got a couple other subjects I want to talk about. You did have, and you can tell me if this is factual or not factual or not. You had a health scare a few years ago.
Yeah, I would say that was a health scare. I had I
don't think most people knew about it.
A lot of people even thought that I had a heart problem, but I actually had a double brain aneurysm, and they put it on Storage Wars, and they said, oh, he's got a 50-50 chance. I had a 4% chance. And, I had became Dr. Taki was my Muslim surgeon that fixed me. He saved my life. And Dr. Sodi was my Sikh surgeon that saved my life, and I had a Jewish doctor and I had a Christian doctor. They all got together one day and they put about 18 coils in my head. And then 3 years went by, and I got a call from my surgeon's nurse and said, you need to come in and have an angiogram. And that's where they go in through the arteries in your leg, and they'll go up into your head and they move it and take a picture and move it and take a picture. And that's how they do it. And when they put these coils in the same way, but they go there and they snip it, and the coil diffuses the blood so it doesn't pop your brain out. So I got super lucky. When I went in, there was 10 of us that went in, and 6 of us died, and 4 of us survived. And I survived without any problems. I came out of the operating room and my hands are up and my fingers are moving, and Laura could see me through the glass as they're opening the door. She says, is this normal? And I'm auctioneering, 25, 37, 50. I'm auctioneering coming straight out of surgery. And they said, this is like a miracle. And so as soon as I got home, I got on my guitar. I wanted to make sure I could play and I could sing and I could auctioneer and I could do all the things that I could do before that. And like I said, 3 years later, I get this call and they said, you have to come back in for an angiogram. And I said, nah, tell Dr. Taki thanks, but no thanks. I'm doing great. And I've been taking my medicine. My blood pressure is good. And I feel great. Thanks. And then they called me back and they said, no, this is like mandatory. You've got to come in on Friday and have this. So I went in, and he came out a little unnerved, and he says, he goes, I'm a little unnerved. He goes, your main aneurysm's grown by 0.5 millimeter, and you have a brand new little baby one behind your right eye. And so you got to come in Thursday, and we're gonna put in 3 more of these and one of these. And he just kind of scratched it out on a napkin and said, this is what it's going to look like. Great. So I went in for that. And they put in a stent and 3 more coils, and didn't have time for the little one behind my right eye. And he said that he told Laura, he said it was like bowling a strike in the dark after somebody's moved all the pins, and all the pins went down. He said it went perfect. And, I went in for a 3-month check after that, and he said everything is great. So, I think I'm good. It's been 6 years, and I've just been like on borrowed time. That's the way I look at it. It's like a gift for the last 5 years, 6 years, because by all rights, I should have been dead on June 16, 2014. I should have just been, but I wasn't, because that wasn't the plans for me. So here I am, annoying everybody around me. That's what I do.
Well, we're glad you're alive.
Thank you. Me too. I've got to accomplish a lot, actually, and I've been restructuring the business. We've done the storageauctions.net. I just didn't want to check out and leave Laura totally screwed up. We've got this big house. We've got a lot of debt, and I've got to figure it out. And so that's one of my biggest dreams, is just to live long enough to at least make like a financial ecosystem around here, where everything kind of pays for itself, and she doesn't have to rely on anybody or anything, and she can just run the businesses, and we have a lot of great help. So, well, I'm excited about the future.
You have been the center of the world. You know that.
I center my own world for sure. I mean, I get it. I get it.
I read some comments in doing some reading about you, and so I read several interviews that were done with you and Laura, and I got a kick out of some of the comments that were given back to you. Some comments made to you by some of the A&E executive types about you and your world. Just interesting. I highly recommend anybody that wants to know more about you and Laura, just Google it. There's plenty there. Some of it's probably true. Some of it may not be true. You said you worked for Nationwide. Were you working with Nationwide in Southern or Northern California?
Southern. I was working for Don Heidel. Don Heidel. You remember Don Heidel, right? He owned Nationwide, and his son was a dude that got in some sort of problems with some Snapple bottle or some video or something. I don't know. One day I woke up from a dream, and I had do we have a minute?
Hey, okay. As long as I've got time.
Okay. So I woke up from this dream, and it was kind of a weird dream. I was in the military, and I was in the wrong part of the military because the other military had us all lined up, and we were getting our chests ripped out with this trencher. one of those big rotary trenchers. And I'm in the back of this group waiting for my turn to get my chest ripped out. And I thought, screw this, right? So I went down, and there was this little concrete bunker that went underneath the slope. And I went in there, and there was this cat lapping up milk. And Bob Moshe was Don Heidel's right-hand man. And I'd worked for Nationwide for about a year and a half. And he sticks his head in there and looks at the cat and says, "You shouldn't be here. This isn't a good place for you." And then I looked at him, realizing he's talking to me, and he left. So I took this as a sign to get the hell out of where I was at, because in my dream, in 100 yards, there was a jungle. So I started running towards the jungle as fast as I could. And Don Heidel was the general on the other army, not my army, the other army. And he yells, "Mike." He called out Mike, and he pointed at me, and some dude gets out with his machine gun at a rank, comes down that slope. He's going to shoot me, but I hit the jungle. And as soon as I hit the jungle in my dream, I woke up and I felt safe because I eluded them. And then I told my wife at the time, which wasn't Laura, my other wife, I said, "Nationwide's going to fire me." And she goes, "You're crazy." And I said, "No, they're going to fire me." I just knew it, right? And so a week later, I get a call from Don. I go in there, I see Bob Moshe, and I said, "Hey, Bob, I want to thank you for looking out for me." And he looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, "Well, I had a dream last week, and you gave me some good advice. And so here I am." So I go in there, and Don Heidel fired me. He said, he goes, "You were soliciting tips." And I don't think I was soliciting tips, but I did remember that. So auctioneers have to be careful out there. I was on top of a big flatbed trailer, and I was catching bids, and I was working this guy next to me. I was working him, and I got him to successfully buy it. And then I think I said to him, I said, "That ought to be worth a tip." And I just jumped off that piece and went to the next one. Didn't think anything about it. The next auction, this dude brings me a $20 bill, and he gives it to me, and I took it. Well, that got me fired from Nationwide. So you got to be careful about soliciting tips. I really wasn't, but I guess I was. And I did take it. So yeah, there you go. And so anyway, I got fired for that. And, the best thing in life, what happens is when a door slams in your face, 2 or 3 more will open up. So what that did is that forced me out of that into my own thing. That forced me to start American Auctioneers. That forced me into looking for my own auctions and not looking for the easy way out for someone else to give me these auctions. And so it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me in my career, was getting fired from Nationwide. How can you say that? I don't know. I just did.
Things happen. They just do.
Yeah.
Tell me about you are married to someone who is a driving force behind you as well. And everybody knows who she is. So tell me a little backdrop story on how you guys met and your great partnership.
Great. Laura and I, we've been together for 25 years, and we've been married for most of that. I think 20 years or something. I was doing restaurant equipment auctions with the Weiler Group down in LA, and this little blonde-haired, green-eyed, cute thing come through the door, and it was Laura. And I'm catching bids on the floor, and the way that I catch bids is with the Weiler Group was kind of a different kind of a thing, because we kind of had a cadence thing that we worked out, and because we worked together for a long time. And so I'm blasting on Laura. She comes in, and I'm saying, "Hey, look at that little green-eyed cute, look at the blonde thing, man. I mean, you look good together. We had to do some lunch or something." And she left. And a year went by. This is true. A year went by, and she came back to another. You're right. She came back to another restaurant equipment auction of the Weilers, and I remembered her, and I did the same thing. I just tried to blast the hell out of her, and she left for a year. For a year, Mike. I'm not kidding. 2 times. So the 3rd time she comes back a year later, and I'm thinking to myself, I know what this lady will do. She will just leave, and that'll be it. So I blasted her. I took myself a break, and I went up to her and I said, if you're not attached, I'd just snatch you up. And she already had her phone number on a card, and she gave it to me. And our second date, she moved in, and she never left. So here we are. And, about, 4 or 5 months went by, and then we were pregnant with the love child, Garrett. And I asked her originally, I said, "Really, who's the dad?" And she says, "Well, you are, you ask." And so for 9 months, 10 months, I'm I'm listening to all my friends, and they're coming up saying, well, Danny, you know, I had a vasectomy. I had a vasectomy, Mike. I had a vasectomy after my second child because I thought, you know, that's my dad did that. So I thought I should do that too. So when I met with Laura, you know, I was telling her, you know, if you want children, we'll reverse this thing and we'll just figure it all out. Whatever you want, babe, you know, I'm yours. And we will just have a family of our own. And before you knew it, she thought she had been poisoned. She thought she had food poisoning. So we took her to the doctor, and this old horse doctor looked at her and said, you know, you're pregnant. And she goes, no, I need some charcoal tablets. I've been food poisoned. No, you're pregnant. And so anyway, here we are. You know, he's 22 years old now, and super proud of him, you know. And so Laura and I, we just started running together, and I taught her how to auctioneer. And so one day I had all 4 of my wisdom teeth pulled out. All 4, one shot. And my mouth got this big and I couldn't talk. I couldn't say anything. I go to Laura. I say, hey, Laura.
Sound like Gabby. Sound like Gabby.
I said, you're going to have to do my auctions, basically. So she went to my mom, which was alive at the time, and said, Danny can't do his auctions and you have to go do his auctions for him. And my mom looked at her. She was only like 4'10", 4'11". She looked up at Laura and she said, no, you're going to do them. You're the new auctioneer lady, and I'm not going to do them, and you're going to go do them. So Laura went out and did my auctions, and I think it was a Ducks Unlimited benefit that I had coming up, and so she was going over, you know, what is this worth? I said, well, these decoys, they usually bring about $250. Well, she come back with all her notes, and she just beat me up on every price that I could have possibly got. And she come back, she goes, I think I really like this auctioneering stuff, and I think I can be really good at it. And she really is. She is really good at it. She knows how to get the money out of stuff. And so anyway, that's kind of how it happened. When 2007 and 2008 come along, we started putting stuff up on YouTube on our YouTube channel, and you know, we started videotaping some of these auctions. And you know, one day Laura opens up a unit and there's like a gun case in there. So she says, if there's a gun in this case, we're going to open it up after you buy it, and if you can pass the federal FFL background and you're willing to pay the dross fees on that, we'll take that gun out of there, we'll put it in the manager's office, you can pick it up at the time. Long story short, it was a machete, but she took, you know, her camera in there and it was a machete in this box. And so anyway, you know, we just started putting these YouTubes up like once a week, and we had NBC and ABC, KCET, and we had 3 networks contact us within a 45-day period of time, and they said, we want to come out and do we want to do a show on this weird economy, and we want to feature your auction company. And I was the only guy on YouTube at the time. I was the only. Now lots of auctioneers on YouTube, but at the time I was the only auctioneer that I could find on YouTube, and that they could find. So that was a break for us. And after that happened, we had a lot of production companies and networks contact us over the next period of time. When all these shows came out, they all happened within a 45-day period of time. Then our phone just started ringing, and we signed up with this company called Go Lucky. And Go Lucky did not have a clue about the auction business, and they just thought that any company that would sell Michael Jackson's gloves got to be the big company, and anybody that would sell storage units got to be the little company. So they're going to show the contrast there. And I'm looking at that thinking, this is not the modern day treasure hunt. This is not, hey, look what's in the box. This is not, they're missing it, right? So Laura wakes up, and Laura, people don't know this about her, but Laura, she has prolific dreams from time to time. It seems like these dreams come to her right at the right time, right at the right moments, and they give us, really great information about our life and the way things are going. So she said, I'm not going to worry about Go Lucky. She's writing in her book. She goes, I had a dream last night. And I said, oh, do tell. And she said, she goes on September 2nd, we're going to have a company that's going to reach out to us, and they're going to be called A to Z Productions, and they're going to have an office in New York, Miami, Memphis, and LA. Okay. And she goes, and on October 14th, they're going to pitch us to the network that's going to pick us up. Thank you, God. That's what she wrote. September 2nd comes along, and I swear to God, this is true. I get an email, and it's not from AZ Productions. It's from North South Productions, and they do have an office in New York, Miami, LA. They don't have one in Memphis, Tennessee, but they have one in Knoxville, Tennessee. So Mama got 4 states and 3 cities right in her dream. So screw everybody else. I'm going with these guys. So, you know, so we sign a contract with them, and then October 14th comes along, 13th comes along, and they send us an email. They say, we're going to pitch you to the History Channel tomorrow. Great. October 14th, that is exactly what she said, right? So October 14th comes along, and there's this guy named David McKillop, and he is with History. And then she has another dream that they took our tape, North South Productions, and they put it inside of a cabinet, and they shut the cabinet. And Laura, she goes, what do you think that means? And it didn't sound very positive to me. So I told Laura, I said, you should just call them and find out. So she calls up North South Productions, and what she said was, this is Laura Dotson, Dan Dotson, the auctioneer's wife. I want to know how our show's doing. But I think what they thought they heard was, this is somebody else's wife, a different auctioneer, a different auction show concept called the Auction Barn in Ohio. And that's who they thought she was. And they come back and they said, oh, the network loves the auction house concept. They're going to pick up the show. Wow. Laura says, well, what about storage? And I'm watching her talk, right? She's about 8 feet away from me. And she goes, no, I'm Laura Dotson from storage. Dan Dotson, we do storage. Oh my God, yes, we have 2 shows. They have 2 shows. What's the name of the other show, she says. And the longer she's talking to these people, the more pissed off she's getting, till finally she goes, they don't even have a name for the other show yet. And so she says something, she hangs up. As soon as she hangs up, and I swear to God, this is true, she just says, God, please send us a Tom Beers. And I have no idea who that is. And I asked her, I said, who's Tom Beers? And she goes, that's Deadliest Catch. That's Ice Road Truckers. That's oh, they had another show that I used to always watch. And I said, yeah, babe,
to die.
right. So I said, yeah, we need somebody like that. 3 weeks later, I'm going to sell in LA. This dude comes up and he says, you ever think about doing a reality show? And I looked at this guy and I said, yeah, you're number 16, baby. What's your name? Because I'm so pissed off at these people, because a lot of them lie, right? And he puts his card out there and it's Tom Beers. And I said, no way. I cussed. And then I said, my wife prayed to God. I cussed and used God in the same sentence. And I said, if you're patient, I have 45 days left in this contract. And he goes, I'm patient. So about 7 days before, we were out of contract, I get a call from a guy from Discovery Channel. And he says, he goes, hey, we'll give you a signing bonus if you'll give us 6 months to develop a show around you and your lovely wife. And I said, well, I'm in a holding pattern for Tom Beers. Thank you, but no thank you. Have a great day. Boom. About 3 hours later, this guy calls back and he goes, look, I'll give you the signing bonus tonight if you'll sign, and I'll give you 6 shows on Discovery Channel stationary if you'll sign this thing with us, because we think it's going to be great. And I said, well, that's a great financial olive branch. Let me sleep on this and we'll talk about this later. As soon as I hung up, dear Tom Beers, hey, Discovery Channel says 6 shows for this much money. You say History Channel 4 shows. What say you? Boom. And he comes back and he goes, we'll match that offer. And I said, no, you can beat that offer. You can beat that offer by 25%. So I sent that and nothing happened for a couple of days. So I asked all my war advisors around me, hey, should I call this guy? Should I call this guy and find out what's going on? Everybody says, no, you should not call him. He's way too busy for you to call, and you shouldn't call him. I never listen to people, Mike. I never listen. You know who I listen to? I listen to my gut. If my gut says I need to call Mike, I'm going to call you, Mike. If my gut says avoid Mike, not that I ever would, I would avoid Mike. So I called this guy, Tom Beers, and I said, hey, Tom, this is Dan Dotson, American Auctioneers. Hey, Dan, how's it going? I said, it's going great. And I just started talking. I said, I had sent you out an email a couple of days ago, and I haven't heard back, but that's a good number. That is an even number for Laura and I. We can split this down the middle, and everybody will get along good. It'll be good for He goes, Danny, Danny, I'm in the middle of a screening right now. That's fine. If that's what you want, we'll do it that way. I said, perfect. I couldn't hang up quick enough. And I thought, oh my God, 4 shows. Well, we ended up filming 250 shows. I mean, I think there was like 270 or more shows filmed. I think we filmed like 250 of them or something. And it's just been a huge blessing for us. And, Tom Beer's Storage Wars was his concept, and we just inspired it. And, we've had a great time with all that. And we don't want it to finish. We don't want it to be over, because there's this modern day treasure hunt. It's always out there, and there's always somebody finding something. I mean, always there's somebody finding something. And so we want to go back to film it because it's so much fun.
Well, you've had a great run.
Yeah.
This pandemic thing has kind of delayed everybody's lives. I mean, it's really turned the world upside down in every phase, every facet of life. In the auction business, in the fundraising auction business, you do lots of fundraisers. I do lots of fundraisers. Our car auction has been off now for 4 to 6 weeks. Our real estate business, we're typically with United Real Estate, United Country Real Estate. We're typically in the $6 to $8 billion a year. The first quarter was outstanding, and now we're kind of facing the reality of some time of a downturn, probably in this quarter. We don't know what's going to happen. We can only pray that we come out of this thing by mid-May. We've got 2 auction schools too, America's Auction Academy. We've got Worldwide College of Auctioneering. We have classes scheduled in late May, early June. So just like you, we're just sitting here going, do we guess what's going to happen and continue to promote it as though it's going to happen, or do we have to just reschedule everything? So, you mentioned Ducks Unlimited. I do their national convention auction, and they put it off, and they've just rescheduled it for August down in Orlando. But this is just happening like crazy right now. So when you do your shows, let's say in 2019, how many weeks or how many days do you actually film?
Production will film probably, with everybody, they're probably filming 5 out of 7 days. We're just we're filming the auction, and then we film interviews, and that's it. So a couple of days a week for us, and that way I can fill in the rest of the time with our business and stuff. And that's how it worked for us. The buyers on the show, they had to film probably 3 or 4 days a week, probably, because they not only had to go do the excavation, pull the stuff out of the unit, but they also had to go take an item to somebody to to let people know what it's worth, or give them a story about it or whatever. And so that took them another day. So their auction day, their excavation day, their appraisal day, so that's 3 days, and then interviews is 4 days. So buyers are working 4 days a week. We're working 2 days a week during doing the filming. Yeah. You
actually had some input on the co-stars of the show, the people who are on the show. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Laura and I, before Storage Wars, Laura and I, we would drive each 250 miles a day, every day, to handle our auctions. And it's one good thing about Storage Wars that brought us together. And so Laura and I, we would go out every day, and we would we were pitching this show that we're going to have a show, and we're looking for people on the show. We're always looking for people on the show, by the way, always looking for colorful buyers and characters. So if you are one of those, then you need to reach out. Laura and I, we would come back every day, and we would put people on a scale from 1 to 10. 10 is we think they'd be great for the show. 1 is they want to be on the show, but there's not a chance in hell that they're ever going to be on the show. And they're a 1. And so we would come back every day with these lists, and we would match our list up. And I was a Dave fan. Dave and I were friends for a long time, and we're not friends now, but we're not enemies. I'm not enemies with anybody. But Laura would come back, and Daryl was a 10. I come back, and Jared was a 10, and Dave was a 10, and we just kind of started matching these together. So when we had this deal in LA where we were selling Suge Knight stuff, and it had come up one time before, and I let everybody know about it, and ABC and some different people know about it, and it got canceled, and then it got rescheduled. So I I didn't call ABC this time. I called Original Productions, and I said, hey, I said, on this date at this time, we're going to be selling Suge Knight stuff, and we're going to have some stuff down here. And they said, well, we're not ready to go yet. We'll send one cameraman down there and do a casting call. And I said, no, that's crazy. You need to have 2 camera people down here. We need to work this shit out, right? And, oh, no, we can't do that. We can only send one camera. So I paid a guy to come down there, and we shot half the first show, and we gave him the tape on it with Suge Knight stuff, and that made the show. It was great. And so that's kind of how everybody got involved in the show. There was a producer of the show that took credit for bringing all these people into the show and made a lot of money from it, just took it out of our pocket and put it in his own. And that almost caused a fist fight. I'm still a little pissed off about that, to be honest with you, Mike. Still a little mad about that. Whenever somebody will take your credit for something and go benefit from it and then try to stuff you under the rug, that's bad. That's enough to get a guy's ass whipped, really. Did I say that out loud? I think I did. So, one day I'm sitting there and Laura has always been an auctioneer, and she's always been incremental in everything that we do, right? And they won't let me put her on a show auctioneering, and it's really kind of disturbing me. So I quit cashing checks. I had a stack of checks. I could have bought a house with these checks, right? And I didn't cash them. I act like I didn't care. And so I tell them, I say, hey, look, I want to be an executive producer on the show. That's what I want. And I want that pay with it, right? And so I go in there and I'm talking to this guy, and I'm not even going to say his name, but I'm talking to this guy that took all the credit for all this stuff. And he says, he goes, what do you mean? What do you mean you want to be an executive producer, Dan? And I said, well, he goes, what have you done? And I said, well, how about we brought all this shit to you on a big silver platter and said, here's everybody, here's everything. And he goes, Danny, he goes, I found all those people at your auctions. And I looked at this guy, and I swear to God, Mike, if I had been 25 years old, I wouldn't have had enough sense to stay on the right side of the desk, and I would have tore this guy totally up. So I tell him, I say, look, if you think that Daryl shows up at an auction 40 miles from his house and he's got all these binders by accident, you're crazy. If you think that Jared and Brandy are showing up 60 miles from home to an auction, you're nuts. I brought all these people to you. Matter of fact, I'm going to get out of your office now before I rip your head off. And I left his office. I left Laura in there, because she's tough as me, right? And she said, that, that, that. So I go out there and I see Tom Beers and Daryl standing out there. And I look up at Daryl and I said, Daryl, how'd you find out about this show? And he goes, well, you and Laura, of course, Dad. And he's standing right in front of Tom Beers. So I look at Tom Beers and I point through the building where this asshole's at. And I said, somebody should go tell him that before he gets whipped, because that's all that's going to happen to him. And then Tom Beer says, Danny, what are you mad about? They know I haven't cashed any of these checks, and we're getting done with the season. I should have never cashed them until today, and things would probably be different right now. But I said, look, I said we brought this stuff, and I said I want a title. I need some kind of a creditor title. He goes, what do you want, Dan? I said, I don't know. I said, if you're not willing to give us an executive producer, I said, maybe you give us a creative consulting credit or something. And he goes, Danny, that's kind of for writers and stuff. And I said, well, you're a smart man, Tom. I said, why don't you give me a title that I can feel happy about? And he comes right back and he goes, how about inspired by? And I said, that's beautiful. I'll take that. Never got inspired by. They would have to put that all over the world. They weren't going to give that to us, but they did give us consulting credits for all the shows we were in. I took that as being okay. They paid us okay. But I would say that anybody else that's ever getting into this business, they should probably really figure it out first. And that's a whole mouthful of stuff to say, but you should always have somebody to represent you in this stuff, and somebody, the right person. If you have somebody representing you and they're too hard and they're too rigid, then that can blow a deal. So I don't really have any advice for any of that stuff, but it has been a hell of a trip and a hell of a ride getting here, Mike.
Well, it's been fun to watch it, and my travels, because you follow me on Facebook, and I'm always in a hotel or I'm on an airplane going somewhere, or at least I have been until now. And
right. Traveler.
There's never a time that I'm not watching a television at 2:00 in the morning and I'm watching you guys do your thing. So it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun watching you guys. It's been great to see the auction profession be on television. You know, we got a lot of different things out there. There's been a lot of people try to do this, and they've had the auction house theme, and it just doesn't. You have to have a cast of characters, and you have to have something that's what's going to happen next. And that's not what a lot of these shows were. And then, of course, you've got the Barrett Jacksons and you've got the Meekum auctions, and they're very entertaining. And here again, you don't know what car is going to come up next. You don't know what the people are going to say. You don't know what the ringmen are going to say. So you've certainly developed a niche that is all your own, and congratulations. And of course, you know, because of that, when you mentioned Nationwide, I thought about that because I used to train a lot of people from Nationwide. They would come into Texas and we'd have them go through the auction school, but most of them were from the Bay Area, and that's why I asked that question earlier. And then, of course, you had A&E had a little spinoff here in Texas, Storage Wars Texas, or I think that's what it was called, with Walt K. And of course, Walt went through our auction school, and Walt's watching right now. I noticed he was having a watch party here in Texas. But you know, Walt, you know, he was an accountant. That he came to auction school looking to get in the auction business, and next thing you know, he's doing that show. And in large part because of what you and Laura have done with the show out in California. So we congratulate Walt always. But
sure.
I'm very grateful that you decided to join us today. The timing, I guess the timing is good because you and I can't really do much else. And, you know, I appreciate it. There you go. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is all great and good, but there's a lot of ways that you can, you know, I don't know.
Maybe
this is how I do it.
Maybe you're like a pandemic auctioneer.
Yeah, I think I can't really talk right now. But this is kind of how when I do go out, this is how I have to do it.
You look kind of like a scary Frosty the Snow guy.
Yeah, I was looking at one of those long cone things that they used in the 16th century during the epidemics there. You know, they would put that smell good stuff in there, but I thought that was just too much. So
it's a little over the top.
Yeah, a little over the top.
Well, Dan, have you got any final parting comments to the folks out there? Because this is going to be out there for a long time. We've got a YouTube channel, and we're rolling out a new Mike McGavel page. And so, you know, I
can tell you, thank you very much, because I recently had one of your broker associates up in Orville, California, Mario, sold a piece of property under United Country. Thank you very much. He did a great job up there. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to sign up for our live auctions on the West Coast, you can go to AmericanAuctioneers.com. Anybody that's interested in the United States for storage auctions, you can go to StorageAuctions.net. And if you're an auctioneer, register as an auctioneer. And come here and say goodbye, Mama.
Hey.
Mrs. Laura is here. Yeah, she's coming back right now.
Let's see that girl.
Hey, folks.
How are you?
Really good. Thank you.
Well, you know, he controlled himself quite well.
I'm so proud.
He didn't go too far off the left-hand side of the road. so since you just walked in, and you're like doing a cameo.
There we are. Yes. So you don't forget to pay the lady.
There you go. I was getting ready to ask you to say that on the way out. So,
fabulous.
So how are you doing with all this pandemic stuff?
You know, Danny and I, fortunately, we're really doing well. You know, we're healthy. We're working with everything that's going. And, you know, and my heart goes out to the folks that are less fortunate and that are, you know, physically know somebody that is, you know, fighting this horrible disease and virus. And I do know that everybody's suffering with the economy. So I feel that. And I just have lots of prayers and just saying, you know, Danny, you can't go anywhere. You got to stay here, making our son captive. And, you know, I've learned a lot about my husband.
Some stuff she don't like.
So, you know, they say, I don't know if this is true. It's not going to happen in this house, but there's probably going to be more babies made. And there's going to be more
I'm just thankful I'm 50.
It's going to be there's going to be more divorces than in probably the history, at least in the last 100 years.
Oh
So,
my God.
you know, we are the same way. We feel for everyone who's, you know, dealing with this, because, you know, I mean, we're right here in the epicenter of Dallas. Dallas has had a lot of cases. We've had a lot of things, and as you know, it's hard to stay home. I'm the world's worst. I don't do well. So thank God I've got a place I can slide off. I can drive an hour outside of Dallas and hang out by myself and just kind of roam the property. And
that's wonderful.
It's a blessing. It's a blessing.
Yes.
I feel sorry. And I live in a condominium, so I'm sitting here with, you know, 200 or 300 units of people that are just going that day. So you know, thank God we do have. Now Texas is a little different. You know, they're starting to open up some
today.
Yeah, I mean,
I heard about that.
You know, who knows if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but, you know, we're very pro-business here in Texas because a lot of Californians like to come here. Thank you very much.
I think it's a good thing, Mike. I think that I think the sooner that we start kind of opening things up that can be safe. I'm not saying I agree with Nevada with opening up all the casinos. Maybe that's a little too early, but we do need to start opening things up because, you know, people cannot stay closed forever without a extreme hardship, you know, and
there's got to be a way to open things and do it safely and social distance and just do it in increments. And even like our auctions, and I'm sure that Danny went through that, or I'm not even sure if he did.
I didn't.
Safe social distancing, you know, keeping the people apart. And if we have to sell it in rounds, we'll sell it in rounds.
That's
you
how
know?
we had to do it.
Yeah. And I just, you know, if they have to separate people at a restaurant, maybe then, you know, they do that. I don't know. I just hope that we can all get back to normal and get back to where we were.
I think this stuff is going to leave as fast as it came, and it's just going to be gone. And
I'm into that.
That's what I think is going to happen. I think that we're just going to look back at this and say, man, I don't even know what happened.
So there you go. Let's get back to work.
so Laura, just so you know, and I told Dan this at the very beginning, this is the first day of National Auctioneers Week.
Oh, looky there.
Yeah. We're pushing for a full month though, right, Mike?
We may run it all year. I don't know.
I love that.
And the other thing is in July, I don't know the exact date because I didn't memorize it, but the National Auctioneers Convention, they have decided to stick with the date, and it is in July, and it is in San Diego.
Oh,
so
we're going to see you there then.
So there you go.
You guys there. We'd love to see you guys.
Yeah.
Very good.
We love San Diego.
Yes. It'd be really nice to get on out and do that. And just, that'll be we look forward to that.
All right. Well, kids, thank you for being on. We love you. You were a lot of fun.
God bless you,
Thank you very much. And God bless you both too. We look forward to seeing you soon. And in the meantime, check out, give me the websites one more time, marketing.
StorageAuctions.net, the only one on the network.
There you go.
And AmericanAuctioneers.com.
That's right. And folks, don't forget to pay the lady.
There you go.
And CBDCafeOnline.com.
Oh, yeah.
If you have a pet or if you want to buy CBD products, it's legal in all 50 states. It's not THC, it's CBD.
He likes me to rub him down all over with it.
I bet. Hey, you're just wanting to get out of the Mercedes and get into another Maserati.
There you go. You know it.
Well, I was telling Dan when I came to Riverside to that Starbucks, you drove up in your Maserati.
They talked me out of selling it.
Was it a blue Maserati?
It was white convertible tuxedo with the black top.
We had two. We had a black one and then we had a white one.
I know.
I just remember she drove up and he goes, "Well, there she is."
Right.
All right. Well, you take care out in California, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
God bless. Thank you so much. I'm so glad I got to tune in with you folks.
Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, you, Dan. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Travis. So that wraps up another episode. As you know, I like to close out with something out of my Jesus Calling book, and I'm going to do that right now. And I find a lot of comfort in the things that I read, and I've gotten to where I do a lot of reading early in the morning and late at night. So I'm going to close out the show with this. Come to me with empty hands and an open heart, ready to receive abundant blessings. I know the depth and breadth of your neediness. Your life path has been difficult, draining you of strength. Come to me for nurture. Let me fill you up with my presence, I and you and me. My power flows most freely into weak ones, aware of their need for me. Faltering steps of dependence are not lack of faith. They are links to my presence. That's from John 17, 20 through 23, and Isaiah 40, 29 through 31. And folks, I think you just heard, basically you heard a testament from Dan in that, you know, in a situation, life changes, things happen. One door closes and three doors open. And you know what, if you have the stick to itness, you're going to be successful. So I think that's the key to this whole thing. Travis, thank you for being the producer to today's show. I'm sure you're going to get a chance to do some editing on the actual copy we're going to put on YouTube. Sorry for any of the technical issues that we had. We don't know really what happened, but I think it was a good interview, and I enjoyed having Dan and Laura on. So on behalf of everyone that's a part of this one, Travis, we thank everyone for being with us and look forward to seeing you again next week on the Mike McGavel Jones Show from Addison, Texas. God bless, and see you next time.